Greetings, wizards. Welcome to the Papercraft Wizard channel. My name is Kelly, and I'm so excited you're here for part 2 of our Easy Beginner mini album. Now that we have our base pages created, we could go ahead and move on to our first page, which is going to be an accordion page. For this page, I'm also using some ribbon. You could use twine or string, whatever you have available. So I have my base page here. I have one piece of cardstock measuring 5 inches by 8 inches, and that is scored at the 4-inch mark. I have a second piece of our base cardstock that measures 5 inches by 8.5 inches, and it's scored at 1/2 inch and 4.5 inches. I have the image from the collection that I'm going to use and a piece of the 110-pound cardstock that is 1/8 of an inch wider and longer than our image. I have a piece of decorative cardstock that measures 4 7/8 inches by 3 7/8 inches. And I have our base piece of cardstock that measures 5 7/8 inches by 5 7/8 inches. The ribbon I've selected to use is 3/8 inches wide, but again, you can use any type of ribbon, string, etc. What I have done to keep my ribbon from unwinding or unraveling is I've just taken a lighter and I've just barely singed the edges without touching it to the flame, just to make sure that that ribbon doesn't unravel. First, we will lay down our decorative cardstock. And I'm going to use some adhesive and adhere it down to the base page. We want to make sure that this is as straight as possible on our page. And then I'll use my bone folder to make sure it's nice and secure. So we'll go ahead and set that aside, and we'll take our 2 accordion pieces here. I'm going to fold that on the score line. And then I'll take this one and fold it on the score lines as well. I'm going to use my scissors to miter these edges. And now I'm going to adhere these two together. I'm going to adhere this page to this flap. So I'll add my adhesive. I'm going to line up my 2 pieces so they are as even as possible. And then I'll take my bone folder and make sure that they are nice and secure. And now we have our accordion page. So now let's decorate it. We'll take our 4 7/8 by 3 7/8 piece and dry fit it onto our cover here. It looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and add the adhesive and then place that in place. Again, we want to make sure this is nice and even, and we want to make sure we have about a 1/16 inch from our score line. So now we're going to take our cute little image and adhere it onto our 110-pound cardstock. That is just 1/8 of an inch wider and longer than our decorative piece. And now we can just go ahead and adhere that into place right there. I'm adding my adhesive and then I'll adhere this into place. We want to get this nice and centered. Again, you know, if you're working with a craft mat, you can use the lines of that to help you center it, or you can just eyeball it. Whatever you're most comfortable with. Once we have that where we'd like it, we'll go ahead and use the bone folder to adhere that down. So this is something extra that I do. It's absolutely not something you have to do. I like to add a camera stamp. This is completely optional, and if you don't have a camera stamp, it's fine. And we'll do the back two middle pieces as well, not the last piece. That will be adhered to the base of our page. For this, I'm going to use my craft mat to help me line up for the center. I'm using some double-sided tape to get the initial adherence of the ribbon. And I use my bone folder to make sure that that is nice and secure. Let me go ahead and pull that off. I'm going to add some liquid adhesive around the outside of our score tape. And then I'm going to adhere our ribbon right over the top of that. And use my bone folder to make sure it's nice and secure. So I'm going to make sure that's nice and secure on there. And then we're going to go ahead and adhere it right on to the top of our page. I'm going to add my liquid adhesive and then we'll adhere this onto our page. Right, so now we just want to get that right about even. And once we have it where we want it, we can go ahead and open up to our last page, take our bone folder and make sure that that is nice and secure. All right, and when we're finished, we can just take our ribbon and tie that up. But there we go, that's our first page. For our second page, we will be creating a vertical pocket with a vertical belly band and a flap. This is our flap. It's made using the 65-pound cardstock. The flap is 6 inches by 6 5/8 inch. We scored at 1/2 inch and at 5/8 inch. That way we have a little bit of a gap, so we have plenty of space for all of our paper. We have 3 background pieces, and these pieces are all measuring 5 7/8 by 5 7/8. I've inked up all of the edges, and I have a belly band here that is made out of our 65-pound cardstock, and it's 7 inches by 1.5 inches. I've scored at 1/2 inch and 6.5 inches. And I cut out this piece to be the decorative cardstock on top of our belly band. And it measures 5 7/8 by 1 3/8 inches. I have our pocket piece, and our pocket piece measures 7 inches by 3.5 inches. I've scored at 1/2 inch on 3 sides, leaving one side of the one of the 7-inch sides open, as that will be our pocket. And then I have a decorative cardstock piece to cover our pocket that measures 5 7/8 by 2 7/8 inches. I have a 3/8 by 1.5 inch piece of ribbon to use as the pull for our page. And then I have a couple of decorative pieces. This is the one I'll use for the cover. So the decorative piece and a 110-pound piece of cardstock that is just 1/8 of an inch wider and 1/8 of an inch longer. Same with this image that will go on top of our pocket. Our base for this is also on 110-pound cardstock and is also 1/8 of an inch longer and 1/8 of an inch wider than our image. I'm going to go ahead and set our images aside for a moment. And first we'll work on the inside of the pocket. So this is our pocket page. Here's our page 1. So this is our page 2. Sometimes it's a little difficult to work with the ribbon, so we can go ahead and just untie that. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and fold out these pages as well to make it a little bit easier. I'm going to miter the corner here only to the first score line. We don't want to go past the first score line. Ring the bell for notifications. So now I'll take my bone folder and bend at both of the score lines. We want to make it to where our page opens this way. And I'll have the ribbon on the inside to make it easier to pull that up. We want to make sure that we adhere this right along the edge. So I'm going to glue only to the first score line. We want to add our adhesive only up to the first score line. And now we want to make sure that is nice and snug up against the edge of our base page. And we want to make sure it's as straight as possible. I'll use my bone folder and make sure that that is nice and secure. So now that we have our flap on there, we can go ahead and begin decorating. I'm going to start with the inside. And the first thing I'm going to do is adhere our piece of ribbon So when it comes to making these little loops, I like to add a little bit of score tape so it makes it easier to adhere these on. And then I like to add a little bit of liquid adhesive. Slippery little sucker. So I get that nice and in place right where I need it. I'm going to leave that frayed stuff on there. Add another little piece of tape adhesive. And add a little bit of liquid adhesive. And then I'm going to adhere that ribbon right over that. And we just need about 1/4 of an inch or so sticking out to indicate that that is where you can pull the page. First, we'll begin with the belly band page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this out of the way. And I'm going to fold at the score lines on my belly band, both ends. Burnish those down. I'm going to flip my cardstock over, my decorative cardstock over. And we are going to line this up so we know where the middle is. And then I'm going to try to get my belly band right in the middle as well. And that is right about where we are going to stick this belly band down. So now that we've figured out where we want to have that, we'll just go ahead and add some adhesive to these tabs. And then we're going to just go ahead and adhere those into place. This is absolutely the easiest way to do a belly band. And so now our image is already inked up. We will add our adhesive and then add this to our belly band. Okay, so to make this easier for me to see, I'm going to turn it sideways. I want to make sure this is as straight as possible. When you're working with directional images and directional paper that, only goes in one direction, you want to make sure that you have that in the right direction. All right, so there is our belly band. And now we'll make sure this is right side up. And we'll go ahead and adhere our belly band page right onto that flap, just like that. So I'm going to add my adhesive and we'll put that down. All right, we'll get that right into place and then adhere that down really well. And there we have our belly band. And we'll be able to slide images. We can use, put a lot of pictures in there or some folios, a variety of different things. All right, so our next page is our pocket. We'll go ahead and set this aside again. This is the paper we're going to use for our pocket. I've already inked up the edges. So now we're taking our pocket piece and we're going to miter all of the corners. Down at the bottom, we're going to just cut that right off there and there. And then we're also going to miter these little pieces from the score line down. Now that we have our corners all mitered, I'm adding my adhesive and then I'll adhere this right to the top of the pocket. Go ahead and take my bone folder and make sure that's on there nice and secure. So we want to make sure our pocket and our page are all going the right direction. I'm going to take my bone folder to help me get these score lines folded. So this is how I want it to look. We have this the right way up. And I'm just going to take this, turn it around. I'm going to adhere my pocket onto my decorative cardstock. I like to do the bottom flap first, just to make sure it's on there properly. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere the other two little tabs as well. Now our pocket page is ready to go onto our base. So I'm going to dry fit that. We'll add our liquid adhesive and then we'll adhere this to our base page. I want to get this right up against the edge as close as I can while still making sure that the whole thing stays even and we stay at least 1/16 of an inch away from our score line. Once we have that where we'd like it, we'll go ahead and use our bone folder to secure the whole thing right into place. And now we have our little pocket. So now I'm going to take my image and I'm going to adhere it onto our piece of cardstock. Just as we have with every other image, we want to make sure it's as straight as possible. And once we have it where we like it, we'll take our bone folder and secure it in place. Now we're going to take this image and adhere it onto the pocket. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. All right, now we're going to take our cover piece. Again, I've already inked up those edges. We'll add our adhesive and then we'll adhere it to the base page. We'll move that up there. We'll take our image. We'll adhere our decorative cardstock onto our little base piece of cardstock. Wizards, don't forget to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and leave a comment. And now we're going to go ahead and adhere our decorative piece onto our little cover flap. We'll get that right where we like it. And we'll use our bone folder to make sure it's nice and secure. And now we've completely finished page 1 and page 2 of our beginner mini album. In this video, we've created pages 1 and 2. Thank you for watching and happy crafting.